Struggling to get your hands on the latest Submariner or a classic Daytona? Well, sorry to break it to you, but everybody knows you can't just rock up and buy a Rolex. Probably the finest Swiss watchmaker in history, Rolex is often described as the most high-end watch brand in the world. Established in 1905 in Swiss Geneva, the luxury watch brand has been a symbol of pure excellence and a classic statement of men's fashion for as long as we can remember. But hey, are things changing for the world's biggest watch brand? Is Rolex going out of stock for good? And if the rumors are true, how is it that one of the greatest makers of luxury watches is simply not making watches as they once did? Bastions of true craftsmanship, the Rolex is a pioneer in the development of wristwatches. Crafted from the finest raw materials and assembled with the most meticulous attention to detail, these guys know how to make the best quality watches. So exactly how many of these luxury timepieces are manufactured every year? Cryptically enough, Rolex never puts that kind of financial record in public domain. That's right. Did you know there are no official production stats the company releases every year? So, all we have are guesstimates. And according to some of our sources, the company's current capacity is just about 1 million a year. Sounds too much? Turns out, it's too little. With the demand for Rolex watches soaring to great heights, the supply falls short by a large margin. This is especially true in light of the recent craze for steel sports models like the classic 8,500 Swiss francs, $8,836 Submariner, which have increasingly been in shortage over the past few years. That's right, just cause you got the cash doesn't mean you can get your hands on a Rolex right away. Years of waiting lists and a sea of authorized and unauthorized watch dealers, getting a Rolex is sure not easy. And you know what they say about the high-end watch trade. There are only two kinds of watchmakers in the world. That's right, Rolex and everyone else. With their most coveted designs next to impossible to buy retail, Rolex has spawned a huge gray market, where each Rolex timepiece is sold at superinflated rates by watch-flipping masters, depriving Rolex fans the chance to don their favorite watch despite having all the money in the world. Sadly, for many Rolex fans, it means they are often at the mercy of shady gray dealers who force them to buy other makes or models before they queue up for the one they want. Sounds a little unfair. Well, when supply levels are so vastly outstripped by demand, I guess it takes a while before your Rolex fantasy can come through. It's true. Once upon a time, you could just save up and use your hard-earned cash to buy a nice Rolex. Today, not so much. But why? And what's really up with Rolex? And what does the iconic Swiss watchmaker have to say about this dire shortage? With some suggesting the low supply of Rolex watches is just part of a big marketing stunt. Intrigued, we did a little digging of our own and turned our eyes to the men behind the magic. Speaking to the rising frustration felt by aspiring buyers, an official spokesperson for Rolex dissed ongoing rumors that the supposed shortage of Rolex watches is a publicity stunt by the company. And while that may be true for 99% of watch brands in the world, who are desperate to create an air of exclusivity, for Rolex, it's always been quality over quantity. The luxury brand claims the process of creating a Rolex is a complicated and precise one. Basically, telling fans that if they want Rolex to maintain that gold-high standard of quality they love, they are just gonna have to wait it out. Remember, Rolex has no single mass-producing production area like most luxury brands in the world. In fact, each watch is crafted across a number of different facilities, starting with Geneva, where the watch is assembled, to Bienne for perfecting movements, before heading on to Plain-les-Ouates, where the cases and bracelets are attached, and finally, the Chenet-Bourges, where the fancy dials and gems are finally added. Mind you, the masterful process of creating a new Rolex is not one to be rushed through. Remember, here in your favorite house of watches, there's a lot to make sure of. From gems that have to be tested for purity to movements that are meticulously assembled by hand, Rolex watches are made by some of the most skilled watch engineers in the world. And with so many in-house processes for quality control, speeding up production with demand isn't exactly how things roll at Rolex. But here's the good news. When it comes to a timepiece as unattainable as a Rolex, you can rest assured of its value over years. Often seen as an investment for life, the allure of this watch stems from the fact that you just know it won't devalue in the future. In fact, by the looks of it, it only ever goes up, even after grazing multiple hands. That's right, a Rolex is an investment for life, setting you apart from your peers and giving you that extra oomph to stand out in a crowd. This luxury watch is the most evergreen accessory a man can have. Sure, with the pandemic in 2020, the production of Rolex and even other luxury brands was drastically affected. But with life going back to normal, things may finally be looking up. Because from what we hear, new Rolex facilities are in the works, including a $1 billion+ facility in Buhl, Switzerland. Sprawling over 1 million square feet, this large watchmaking unit is expected to create 2,000 new jobs. But sadly, the facility won't be up and running until 2029, so there's probably still a few years before supplies can match the high level of demand.